Thanks for hosting me, and I wanted to introduce you to Bob Loblaw of Loblaw Immunotherapy, who's having a very bad day today. And a lot of people in the room have probably sent an email like this, thought about sending an email like this, or have been on the receiving end. And he's got three big problems. First, a lot of his cytometry samples are just gone. Second, the gating is all messed up. He uses more colorful languages. And then third, I'm just trying to answer a simple question. Are T cells up and responders? Why is this so hard? So how does he go from this being frazzled to seeing all of this data on a simple website, all his metadata locked and loaded, all his responders, all his samples? And that's what we're going to talk to you today about TACO, where we make cytometry simple for global trials. We are trusted by some of the best translational scientists in the industry. We've got over 5,000 samples processed in our CLIA lab, working with over 20 active global phase 1 and phase 2s. The problem we solve is that high parameter cytometry in global clinical trials is extremely hard to implement reproducibly. There are three main problems. One, sample. Right at the beginning, about 10 to 15% of samples fail before they ever hit an instrument. That could be a multi-million-dollar data set. Second, the panels themselves, they have hundreds of tuning parameters, and if you get them wrong, that could lead to a high coefficient of variation. Third, the data analysis is done by hand, and that's time the drug developers don't have, and it can cause potential errors downstream. The cost of all this is that drug developers don't have the insights they want, and about 10 to 12% of drugs only make it, and you want to turn the odds back in the drug developers' favor. So this is where our solution comes in. We have built a token profile, which is the easiest way to implement cytometry in your global trial. We built a blood stabilization kit that works all across the world. EU, US, Australia, you can stabilize right off the site. It's a two-step process, it's stable for months. 10 to 20x lower failure rate than fresh blood. We've got up to 40 marker panels, which have a 16-fold increase over conventional flow cytometry. We've got advanced physical automation combined with our amazing lab team to generate great data. And then we build pretty dashboards so you can get trial-changing results in weeks or days as opposed to months. So we mentioned three big problems: sample collection, panel, and data. We'll go through each of those in turn. So right at the beginning, the drug developer's dilemma is once you draw a patient live for downstream analysis, about 10 to 15% or 10 to 20% of those fail because they don't meet what's called a 3-day stability window. So when you draw a sample, when it reaches PBMC or cytometry, it's about 3 days for it to be viable. We've looked underneath the hood, and it turns out that fresh isn't really all that fresh. If you look over here on the x-axis, you can see the time in hours. The y is the cell count per the liter of blood. This is the original research by TACO. And there's a 48% reduction by time equals 72. So fresh ages like milk is a short version. And as you look at even the 24-hour, the cell loss isn't uniform. So for example, monocytes and NK cells, etc., degrade at different rates. So drug developers have been sold as bill of goods that a 23-hour sample and a 50-hour sample are equivalently the same. The problem is garbage in, garbage out. So all of these downstream samples are used to create PBMCs or run quote-unquote live on cytometry analysis. So this is where our token kit comes in, which can preserve cell count and population frequencies for months. All this data is on TACO.bio/token kit. Cell populations after 15 months is on the y-axis, time equals 0 is on the x-axis, and bam, more value here. All right, this is an example of the specimen kit being used. You can see it's really easy. You just have to draw the blood, take one aliquot into the first buffer, shake it up, put it into the second buffer, and it's good to go on -80. All these kits are workable right now on the web as well. And let's go back to Bob Loblaw. So, he wrote this long email, and he had this whole issue with cytometry specimens lost. Okay, wow, that's already gone out of his email. So we just talked about sample collection. Now let's go to panel design. So remember, sample, panel, data. For our panels, we have both mass cytometry and spectral flow panels that are validated with single-digit coefficient of variation. We support both whole blood and PBMC. Just an excerpt from our mass cytometry, up to 41 channels here. We can drop in channels as well for people who are doing CAR-T or other kind of variations. Hundreds of thousands of cells analyzed, and we all run these in our CLIA-compliant lab. We do have what's called TBNK upgrades. So a lot of drug developers say, well, the TBNK doesn't work, this drug is DOA, so why do I care about anything else? We introduced Token Focus for that, so you can just buy the TBNK part of the immune panel and then do a software unlock to upgrade the rest. So that starts at $1,000. And then analysis. So let's go to Bob's company, Loblaw Immunotherapy, and just see how they analyze flow data. Turns out that what they do is they append random spreadsheets together. So they get population frequencies, and they get things like marker expression, and they get functional subset counts. And then the next step in this is, after appending them, is praying to a higher power. So this is what Bob is doing. He's praying to all of his gods, and that he can figure out this entire mess. One data point catches his eye. It's a red dot at 39%. And the third step is realizing that there's a massive error. So spoiler alert, he couldn't figure out how to make sense of this data. As he looked underneath the hood, he found a bad gating plot here. And cytometry experts will know in the bottom left corner, that's what's called double negative T cells. There are way too many of them in this particular plot. The reason why is he cookie cutter gating and potentially missed cleanup gates. And it didn't have to be this way. Now the FDA put a hold on Bob's trial, and Bob is updating his LinkedIn as we speak. So, poor Bob, it didn't have to be this way. How did he get here? Well, he started with a cytometry vendor. They gave him an off-the-shelf panel. They gave him a cookie cutter gating strategy. They applied that strategy with no tailoring, no data cleanup, and then gave him this data analysis. So you got a really unhappy guy there. By contrast, with Takeo, we give best of machines, so we have tailored gating that just makes sense. For our standard panels, we have a gating strategy. We show that to a customer, and then he or she can give us instructions like add this. So we go to gate K cells, do things like gating and tailoring, and then we'll do independent science review internally, and then show that data set to our customers who approve it. We turn that into gated data. We get great cytometry results. So remember those spreadsheets? So you had all these massive things that you had to wade through and had all the metadata on these. Now these are all on Takeo's dashboard, where you can see things like all the specific subtypes categorized by your particular metadata, do all the instant statistical checks. And if you want to play around with spreadsheets and abuse yourself, you can do that on the export function. So remember Bob's email, all of this stuff is now gone, the gating is now okay, and he's no longer needing spreadsheets. Now Bob is writing a very different email to his colleague Joe Bluth. Joe, check out the dashboard at app.takeo.bio. All specimens should be there. You can see the T cell statistical change in byte dose. And now he's feeling bloody, so he writes years later. So this is a tale of two Bobs. So, in sum, global trials are depending on Takeo today, and we hope you do too. We are trusted by these very large specimen count trials that are spending multiple months. You can see here across the US, Europe, and Australia, as well as some customers in Asia as well. So thanks for hosting us today, and we'll have a poster tomorrow if you're interested in the booth, and you can find out more at takeo.bio/pricing/panels or /publications. So thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. And we're very happy that Bob has a good, happy ending for the story.